Plans, plans, plans. Hello house lovers. After my last video, which was the introduction to our architectural designer, I thought I might make a small video about how you actually go about choosing an architect for your project. And more importantly, do you even need one? You've bought your house, your dream home, or perhaps your dream block of land, and you've got to decide what to do with it. The first thing to think about is the nature of your project. Are you going to be completely renovating? Are you going to be extending? Are you going to be demolishing and rebuilding, or building from green land to start with? All of those things will determine who you need. You have to decide, first of all, the scale of your project. The scale of the project will then determine who you need to engage. And the complexity of the project will also determine who you need to engage. If you're just doing a simple room, you could just get an interior designer who's got a strong sense of architecture, who can draw those plans for you and then work with the builder. Same if you're just extending out the back. You might be able to just work with an interior decorator who has architectural sense, who can then help you with the drawings and then work with a project manager and a builder. Okay, you've decided you want to work with an architect. You've decided that your project has the scale to need that kind of expertise. Where do you find them? $1,000,000 question. Well, there are some obvious things. Firstly, you can look at design blogs, and there are many of them around the world. You can look at things that are in your city and then find some projects that you like and go and have a look at them. You can also look at design magazines, lifestyle magazines, and also architecturally specific magazines. The other thing is word of mouth. Ask around. If you like someone's house or their extension or their renovation, ask who did it. That's also a good way to find a builder. In Australia, Royal Australian Institute of Architecture, and they have a list and they have all the registered architects listed there if you're looking for a registered architect. So you've got a shortlist, you've found some people, go and look at their projects and then contact the architect. And what they should be able to do is give you some references either of the clients or the houses themselves, and you can go and have a look, have a chat to the people and get a sense of how the architect might work. Also, when you go and meet the architect, you're going to get a sense of the interpersonal relationship that could evolve. Yes, that is very important. Our experience with this was that we actually started to look at architects before we found the property, which is kind of a weird way of doing it, but we just wanted to scope out who was available, who was around, and what their work was like. We're in the dressing room with the fabulous floor. We met a few architects, we had a chat, we said, we've got this project coming up, can you show us what you've done? So we had a look at some people's work, and I must say too, we were wined and dined a little bit. It's very good to have clear parameters and to manage expectation at this point. You haven't got the job yet. So we met a few people, we had a few dinners, it was all very lovely. Then we found this property, and then things had to ramp up. We had a vague idea of what we wanted, but then we needed to find the person who was going to do it for us. And as I mentioned in my previous video, that process happened purely by accident because we were in this amazing house and we looked around and thought, wow, this is something. It was a brutalist palace, but with soft green and amazing layers, beautiful finishing, clever use of space, beautiful bathrooms, a really lovely considered kitchen, open spaces, front and back and up and below. A really cool house. And the owner, the builder, the designer of that was Julia Cox. So it was that immersive experience that led us to her. But we had, at this point, been looking at magazines, looking at blogs, going to look at some properties that had been designed and had won awards or were kind of in the same aesthetic ballpark that we were looking at. So we were starting to do some due diligence. And due diligence is important. You need to make sure that whoever you engage doesn't have any pending lawsuits, doesn't have a terrible reputation, hasn't been blacklisted by suppliers for not paying their bills, all of which you should be able to find online through the registration of the various organizations that they may belong to. And shall we talk money? Somewhat vulgar. But the kind of industry standard is that the architect's or the designer's fee is going to be about 10 to 15% of the total budget. So what you need to figure out though, and obviously understand, is that sum comes off your total budget. So in fact, your budget build is reduced by 10 to 15%. I know that seems obvious, but quick mental arithmetic is not my strong point. Sweet five will hold all the answers. Okay. You've shortlisted people, you've done some site visits, you've seen some amazing buildings, you get to meet the person in the flesh. So some things to bear in mind, I think, how the relationship was going to play out. Now, for us, we wanted to be very involved in the project, which means good communication and also someone whose ego is going to manage that. So it's a cliche and it's a generalization, but architects can be slightly large on the ego front. Look for warning signs about whose best interests they might be operating, how flexible they are with their ideas, how responsive they are to your input and ideas, and whether they listen to what you want, the kind of questions that they ask. Essentially, Tom Ford said you should never do anything with anyone that you wouldn't have lunch with. You want to look for signs that they're collaborative, they've got good communication skills, they answer all your emails, they answer your telephone calls, they're available, they're pleasant. You might want to have lunch with them and introduce them to your mother. Quick aside, here we are in the presidential suite and I was brutally removing this bathroom, but I was pulling up the tiles that were all here. Wedged behind these radiator pipes, in between the tiles, was this key. And I thought to myself, just imagine who lost this key and what it locked and what they must have thought and how they must have tried to find it, and did they ever manage to unlock the cupboard or the drawer or the box that this was the key for, and what must they have thought? An elf, a pixie, a fairy had come and stolen it, and here it is. Kind of poignant. Anyway, I want to tell them it's fine, it's okay, I found your key, and we have all the other keys from the house, so I think we might put them all together and find an artist to do something cunning with them. Back to our journey, our design journey. We were at the house of Julia and we loved it, and we started to talk to her, and both the good doctor and I just had an instinct that she was going to be the right fit for us personally. Her design aesthetic, her commitment to sustainability, for dealing with waste in a really thoughtful manner, because I don't just want to put a skip out the front and keep filling it with stuff. Hence I've been working so hard to find someone to take all the stoves and the sinks and the shower basins. But some people don't dig that, and I wanted to make sure that we found someone who did. And with Julia, we did. I am only doing anything with anyone that I want to have lunch with. There we are, house lovers. Choose Your Architect 101. I hope it has been remotely useful or interesting, and that our experience might help you with yours in whatever manner you're going to work. Do subscribe, do like, and do let me know if there's anything else you want me to cover. I have my own agenda, obviously, but if there's something fantastic, then we'll give it a good Aussie go. But in the meantime, house lovers, thank you very much for watching. See you next time.